welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family. We chose this one. This is episode 359, The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, Lap 14. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too, and shout out to Tuner Cult and Speed We Trust. Check them out for all their shirts and giveaways of cars and cash, apparently. TunerCult.com.
We're just shouting out sponsors. Not this episode sponsored by, but shout out to Tuner Cult.
Oh, yeah, this episode brought to you by Tuner Cult.
They pay lots. They pay top
in
dollar.
Speed they trust. So that's why they contacted us.
The FTC gets really mad if you don't alert people that they are paying for that.
We got fined Kim Kardashian levels for not explicitly saying that this entire podcast is just a crypto pump and dump.
FTX, baby.
Before we introduce our guests, I want to remind everybody that voting is still open for very, very few more days. Patrons have a couple more days than the main feed, but main feed voting for the Too Fast, Too Forever Hall of Fame closes tomorrow on the 19th, because Joe and I are recording our episode tomorrow, which is for us in a week. But we are recording our episode tomorrow. So if you have not gone to cageclub.me/vote and cast your ballot for the Too Fast, Too Forever Hall of Fame, you have one more day to do it if you are listening on time. If you're listening late, there's always next year. Just do it next year. But patrons, cageclub.me/vote, you have about 4 or 5 days to do that, please, and thank you. But with us tonight, once again, all lap long, our ride or die fast compatriots, Walter Hickey and Kim Bhasin. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello. How's it going?
What's up?
How are you two doing this evening?
I'm really good. I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Wonderful. Feeling good?
How did this movie hit for you both after having watched a couple longer ones and now have a shorter one, a breezier one, maybe a fan favorite one? What was watching Tokyo Drift this time like for both of you?
It was like, have you ever done like a wine tasting or like a beer flight? And like you start off and then it gets a little bit weirder and kind of funkier and they start throwing some IPAs in there or some Rieslings or something. And they're like, actually, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get a nice dry wine, or we're going to get a nice, like a Pilsner perhaps to cleanse the palate a bit, bring it back down to basics. It felt refreshing. It felt a little funky, but not in a bad way. And I thought it was a good little refresh after a thing that was clearly gaining a bit of momentum. Yeah.
So I don't often relate with like coming of age movies, and the way
because you were born a full grown man,
right. Of course.
Who owns a train
has never come of age.
Yeah. We got another train fact coming today. Get hyped for that.
I've been excited. I've been hyping it for like 2 weeks on the show.
But this one is so like absurdist that you can't relate with it at all, which made me relate with it more.
Oh, okay.
Because it's more of like a fantasy thing than anything to end up moving across the world to Tokyo and then suddenly becoming a successful street racer.
We have another podcast on this network, High School Slumber Party, which I think, Walter, you've been on, where they talk about coming of age movies. And one time we did this, we covered on this show and that show, and also Third Time's a Charm, which is the third movie in the franchise. And when we were on Brian's show, just like, this is a real weird high school movie. Like, it is, but it's not. And, like, he's, like, 40 years old, so, like, it's a
He's
strange...
17. He's not even 18 in this movie,
oh
Joey.
My God.
Before his 18th birthday, they say it.
I mean, the very funny thing is we're going to get in the next movie, in Furious 7, that one scene where Dom goes to Tokyo, and 7 years have passed in real time between shooting those scenes, and he's supposed to be the same age as he is in this movie.
Yeah.
Just sunscreen and water.
Oh, boy.
No, but shout out to High School Slumber Party podcast, because that podcast, I made one of the biggest like guest mistakes I've ever made.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you know about this, but they booked me to come on for the Christine episode, and so I had it in my head of like, okay, I gotta watch Christine. You know, it's Stephen King, it's the movie from the 80s. You know, starts with the C, and then obviously like I spend a lot of time researching, watching Carrie, and come onto the podcast, and I don't realize until 5 minutes in that I've watched the wrong film, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I need to put a stop to this, I fucked up so bad.
I remembered as I was saying, I think you've been on there, like that's like burned into my brain as like, it's so funny. It's so funny. It's so funny.
It's hysterical.
Yeah,
That's
I
amazing.
tried really hard to like do prep for these things, but like I just completely whiffed it, and
it happens.
Yeah, good show. Hey, great show. Really, really, really fun time though. I will say, like, really dig it.
So we have things to talk about in this episode that we have debated But before we get there, can you please, we've been waiting now 4 weeks because we flip-flopped for scheduling. We've been waiting 4 weeks for another train fact. Can you
Do we
please
do it
hit
at
us
the beginning or the end? We usually do it at the end.
Well, no, we did it at the beginning last time.
Okay,
I mean, it's up to you,
okay.
Joe. When do you want it now or you want to wait?
I want it immediately because I've been waiting for it for 4 weeks,
Yeah,
obviously.
can we please have a train fact?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. The previous owner of the train used it to hold political fundraisers for New Jersey Congressman Frank Pallone.
What?
Okay.
Was it functional?
Hey,
I'm not allowed to add
Hey,
follow-ups. Okay,
you got
sorry,
your fact.
never
You
mind.
got your fact. You got your fact.
We found a flyer. This is
We found a flyer.
well
we
true.
We found evidence. We didn't find. This was not written down anywhere. We just found detritus from fundraisers, and this is great.
I think so.
What?
At the end of the lap, when we have our tune-up, we're going to have you guys both on to just sort of like talk about. We're going to get your rankings. We're going to talk about like how things went.
Yes.
I think Joe and I each get one question. Like you get one fact, and then we each get one question about the train.
Sure.
I will forfeit my question for just a picture of you two inside the train. But I must see the inside. Show me what the poop sees. I want to see it, the whole thing.
Oh man, I love it. I love it so much. But here we are talking about Tokyo Drift. I will say that the only person from this entire franchise that we have interviewed on this podcast is Sean's mom, who says, "Is it illegal to smoke here?" in front of a no smoking sign. She was a delight. She was lovely to talk to.
She was awesome. She was so cool.
But the most important thing that I want to talk about before we talk about, specific highlights, lowlights, whatever, there's been a debate on the show since the very beginning. Who is right, Sean's dad or Sean's mom? When Sean shows up to Tokyo, and
give him a rundown. We get
Sean's dad says, "Sean, I thought you were supposed to be here on the 7th." And he goes, "Today is the 7th." And he goes, "Hold on." And he lets the woman of the night out of his apartment. And then Sean comes in. So we have tried to figure out if military dad is wrong, if on her multiple marriages, whatever, smoking in a police station, no smoking zone, mom is wrong, if Sean's an unreliable narrator. Do you have any sense? Because this is both a incredibly simple debate and one that we cannot get to the bottom of. In this, today is the 7th. I thought you were getting here on the 7th.
But today is the 7th. I thought you were getting here on the 7th. That would mean that the dad is surprised that Sean is like a day late and is caught with a woman of the night in his apartment the next day.
Yeah, I think that clearly what's happened here is the international date line. And 20 hours of travel has caused a bit of an incident. The question, though, is the man's thought process is very clearly, I guess my son didn't show up today. Time to go to the brothel. And
that's the thing, yes.
Yeah.
So that's what you think. So you think that means that, yes, it is the next day he bailed. But he said, I was going to show up at the airport. So he admits that he didn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would have been
at the airport yesterday.
Right? He should have been there yesterday. It's just back. The dad's wrong. Yeah.
But the dad is a naval man his entire life. He's a lifetime sailor. You're saying that he could fuck up dates and times that much, as opposed to the mom who smokes in the police station.
Here's the thing about the Navy. Only one guy is in charge of being on time to stuff. The boat's going to take everyone else there. And they don't really factor in to when the boat shows. Like, there's one guy who's like, all right, we got to make our port time, right? Everyone else, time irrelevant entirely. They're just literally along for the ride.
So basically, his whole life, he's never had to worry about time.
He's never had to worry about showing up to the airport because the boat's a fucking airport. It's the USS Eisenhower. Like,
so we do. So you guys believe that the dad is in the wrong and fucked up the time. And then said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go get a sex worker tonight. Sean's not here. Woohoo!"
Probably like 2 days off. Then he thought it was he thought Sean was gonna go back in time, right?
Yeah,
by crossing the international date line.
But wouldn't the next most logical thing be if he didn't show up on the day that you thought he was going to show up and Sean is a day late, you'd be like, "Oh, his mom fucked it up. I have to be back at the airport tomorrow. He's probably going to show up tomorrow." But he's like, "Nope, sex worker."
Yeah, right? No, he thinks Sean's arriving the following day.
2 days later?
Oh yeah. That's it.
So he already factored in that maybe
did.
Kim's onto something. Maybe he already like had a fudge number of Sean's mom in there and was like, oh, she said the 7th. She's gonna mean the 8th.
Yeah.
So that's gonna mean the 9th.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So he's 2 days off, the opposite direction. Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly,
You gotta
we've had
time
this
travel
conversation with
backwards.
probably 15 different people. That's a new idea. That's
And almost makes sense.
Although, here's another angle, right? So we assume that he's flying from California to Tokyo, right? Right across the Pacific.
Arizona.
Yeah.
Same difference, right?
Same
Rounding
difference.
error away. So what if instead he's flying from Arizona to like Doha, right? And then transferring to a flight to fly to Tokyo. So he's going backwards instead of forwards. And then therefore he's assuming the flight went the other way because he wasn't going to cross the international date line and he went back in time, right?
That's an awful flight to take.
Yes, well, so is launching a car into space, Kim, but that hasn't stopped the franchise before, and it won't stop it again.
and that's also Sean.
You want to know a bad
consideration
flight?
there.
How about chasing a plane during an entire runway? Sounds like a crummy flight, Kim. Never stopped this franchise. Never stopped. Taxiing for 20 minutes.
I'm not sure if Doha had a intact international airport hub when this movie came out, so maybe could have been Frankfurt.
Well, I guys, we know that Dubai canonically exists in Fast and Furious because it's eventually teased in Fast and Furious.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. It does exist. Yeah, that's true.
I want to see Sean. Like, I want to see the turbocharged prelude of Sean in Dubai, where it's 6 minutes of no dialogue of him just like falling in love with one girl over there who like
And not
helps
knowing what
him evade
food
the
is.
law. Mhm.
Not knowing what food is again, just being like, what is this? You got ketchup?
Kim, do you have a pick for the most 80s moment in this? This feels like there's stuff that I was just like, that feels pretty 80s, but also kind of felt like everything in here that I was like, this feels right, also to me felt like a stretch. And I'm not sure if any of my answers I love, but Kim, do you have a pick for the most 80s moment in our 80s cult movie lap?
I do. So there's a scene where Sean goes to Kamada's place, and on the way in, he's got the money, and he gets into this alleyway, and there's all these thugs in the alleyway, and they have like a baseball bat. They're all smoking cigarettes. They got like a chain. They're like threatening with their chain. I got a chain, guys. I'm gonna miss it. They get, like 3 of them have pompadours. The outfits with the shirt collar going over the lapel is very 80s. Like they got that going. It's just weird cyberpunk thugs in the in the alleyway.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I just have the villain being a bully. That's like
okay.
starting out as a bully, and then that's just kind of the bad guy for the film, like a high school bully being an adversary for the entire course of it.
Now,
That's
you're
all I
talking
got.
about DK? You're talking about Zachary Ty Bryan from Home Improvement?
See, that's the best part. Yes, I'm talking about both.
Both of them.
Talking
Okay,
about
yeah.
both. This movie was like, you know what's going to happen? He's going to leave. He's going to be so relieved that he doesn't have to deal with this bully anymore. Another bully.
Yeah, my bully, and also like the specific type of like machismo bully that he is.
Yeah.
Especially Zachary Ty Bryan felt very bully-ish to me, very 80s-ish to me. Joe, did you have another pick?
I have 2 that are very adjacent to both what Walt and Kim just said.
Okay.
One, piggybacking off of Walt, the bullying of the kid in the shop class in the intro.
Yeah.
Again, that's like spray painting his belly. 4 guys holding him back is very traditional bullying that feels like doesn't happen very often anymore. To piggyback off of Kim's, specifically Sonny Chiba's suit is very 80s. Just like the shape and the bigness of it. But I think that the most 80s moment is smoking in a police station.
Hell yeah.
I remembered, I think my pick for the first movie was Brian wanting a cigarette. So I wrote down here Mrs. Boswell smoking is very 80s. Just like cigarettes at all is just like that's
smoking
from a
in
era.
a police station, I think, is like very 80s. But go ahead, what do you have?
I think Sean's dad, like being a military dad, having a difficult relationship with a military, like a strict father, feels very 80s.
Okay.
And also, this is throughout, and maybe really throughout all the movies, but I feel like more so specifically here for some reason, maybe because the stakes are lower and it just feels more like driving than like movie driving. Just road rage kind of feels 80s in a way.
Yeah.
Just like abstract anger that you're mad at the world, but you're going to take it out on other cars around you.
I had one last one too.
Mm-hmm.
It's that they duel over a woman. Like, you get to keep the woman after a fight. Like, that, I don't think that happens anymore. Like, I get that it's a race, but it's essentially just like a stand-in for a fist fight, and you just get to keep the girl. Yeah, those were my 80s picks for this time.
Cool.
I have a philosophical question for you guys.
Oh my god.
When I was watching it this time, we're at the beginning again. I see Sean Boswell walk out to his car after he's in shop class, wrenching away. And this man has a messenger bag. Does Sean Boswell look like a messenger bag high school kid to you? Because he does not. Like, personality-wise, that does not fit, right? I could see, like, a one-strap shoulders one, like, that we later get in, like, when they're in Japan. But, like, a cross-body, low-slung messenger bag, it just doesn't feel like that fits for Sean Boswell, right?
Is it leather or canvas?
It's canvas.
Oh, then I agree with you. I don't think it fits. I think if he had a very like artisan leather bag that has been put together by the strength of an American tanner, like that, that might fit. But no, canvas doesn't make sense.
This is like Walmart messenger bag.
I think that it's just the wrong time. I think that he would be messenger bag in the early 90s, but not in this era. This is just it's got a different connotation at this point.
Yeah, see, it felt so weird. I never noticed it till I was watching it this time, and I was like, that just doesn't feel, because like Zachary Ty Bryan has like the two shoulder, tosses it in the car, and I'm like, that's what I'm imagining. LL Bean, Jan Sport, classic backpack, but nope. He just has a messenger bag.
Is Tanner... I mean, Kim, you use that word. I haven't thought about that word. Is Tanner still a job? Can you still be a Tanner? Are there still Tanners in America?
Yeah, there's tanneries. Plenty of tanneries.
My other question, this is based on something Walt said. You said it's the wrong time. It feels more 90s. Like, this movie comes out in 2006, but then with the retrofitting of Han not actually dying, actually takes place more like 2013 to 2015.
So it feels even weirder.
Can't be right.
Look, if we want Han back, we have to pretend that this movie came out 8 years later.
I mean,
or this movie was set 8 years later.
I feel like it's kind of like this movie is always, and again, we can talk about it later if we want, but like this movie very much feels like the Walk Hard sketch of like the wrong kid died, where like you can tell if they could redo this, they would not kill Han, they would probably kill Mr. Sean Boswell.
Yes.
They would probably kill Twinkie. They would keep Han, the magnetic screen personality, on the screen for later installments, perhaps. But, like, I think that they picked the wrong guy.
Well, like, it's just so wild to be, like, in this third movie in a franchise that's really not that much of a franchise, because from first one to second one, there's only one character crossover. From 2 to 3, there's no crossover until the cameo at the end, which is only done as Payola exchange a favor to get Riddick. It's like, it's a franchise, but it's not really a franchise. Justin Lin's like, I'm going to give this movie stakes, and I'm going to kill somebody that people love. Whereas, to your point, down the road, all of a sudden it's a franchise. Just like, well, we're not going to kill the only character that, like, everyone loves.
Universally loved character, yeah.
We will kill literally anyone else. But no, Han's got to go.
Han's got to go.
Bring them back anyways, so.
Walt, do you have a favorite moment, favorite part, favorite scene, favorite character from Tokyo Drift?
I really dug, like, I think that they did an interesting thing with, like, adding the drift element to it. And, like, when they were referring to, like, oh, yeah, like, you know, Japanese people figured out how to drift. And I was like, that can't be, like, they have to be making that up, right? And it was like, no, it was genuinely a thing that they did on, like, a mountain. And, like, it had, a, you know, precedent in other racing styles. But, like, the fact that they were able to, like, add, like, a very interesting, genuinely, like, regional flavor to racing is, like, it is kind of fun when, like, you know, racing in the United States is very NASCAR infused. In Europe, it's very F1 infused. It's very nice when you can kind of get kind of a local character to stuff.
Sure.
That I felt like they were kind of like, you know, they had spent the first two, honestly, all the movies except this one spend a lot of time in some very like sweaty places, like, you know, very Miami, very California, very Brazil, right? Very like Southwest. And like this one just kind of felt like it almost like the change of climate was a refreshing element for it in a way that I know that sequentially it happens third, but like it really does feel like it's the first movie to actually change its milieu, aesthetic, and even just kind of like even just like temperature, I guess, in that kind of way. So I really kind of dug like Tokyo is just a gorgeous city, and
Mm-hmm.
also like I felt like the fact that they were able to make it like so like find a justification, perfect, imperfect, or otherwise, to kind of make the character of the city's racing really kind of shine through. I dug that.
And that's something like even though they try to like highlight different cities in every other movie, like they don't really do other kinds of racing unless I'm forgetting things. And also they don't
you're
really
not.
mess with temperature either, other than
It's always hot. Nick,
the
yeah.
submarine in Fate and then the end scene in Fast 10 where Giselle's on a submarine, right? So
Yeah.
just like there's snow in like 1.5 scenes and then everything else is just like we're sweaty.
Yeah,
Well,
they're sweating in fucking London.
can't let the
Like,
biceps out in the
I know.
you know?
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you have to be showing off the guns. I like that. I like your point that the timing of the drifting came out very, very appropriately because it also coincided with like the general American public didn't know what this was yet
Yeah.
either. Like it was a sensation somewhere else. It hadn't been ported over, and the movie's like the perfect bridge of that, and just like the culmination of that is why I think you get so much cult following for something that should just be a straight to DVD $5 movie bin movie, and that's awesome.
it's also like, and like we've talked about this a bunch, but like the story of like, you know, Racer X getting adapted into the Fast and the Furious, but then having all of it, like genuinely all of it's like Asian American, like immigrant context boiled out of it totally.
Yep.
And like the tragedy of that, and obviously Lin being instrumental in kind of restoring that back into this franchise, it did kind of feel like it was another chance for this thing to rediscover and kind of bring what made the Racer X article just so sensational of like revealing this undercurrent and this like this scene to an audience that hadn't seen it before. I just kind of thought that this was kind of the first and genuinely so far the only movie that really does feel like that, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's why it feels like this is a special one. I think people, it's polarizing. Some people, like a lot of people love this. Some people really hate this movie, but it does feel different. And I do like, you know, selfishly or whatever, like, you know, self-congratulatorily, like I like putting it where we have it because like it's different enough. Like we're enough into the lap where it feels different that there's like a change. Like coming after 2, it's like,
I wanted to
it's
ask
weird.
both of like you, Walt and Kim, how did you like it in this format? Because once we changed this, we were like, this is the way we will always watch these movies now. Like it feels like the right breathing space in between 6 and 7, knowing that 7's coming. Did you like this? Do you not like this? Would you rather have watched it third, or is it good where we have it?
I like it. I like it here, and here's why. I think the type of like storytelling throughout these, like 5 is a heist film, 4 is a crime film, and then you got uh the from there on out, 6 through whatever we're at, it's and forever is gonna be like they're action films, right?
Yep.
They're built
Yep.
like classic action films. This is a Western that's based
Mhm.
in Tokyo, right? It has all this kid going from one town to the other, causing problems. You see that standoff with the dad and DK near the end. There's a moment where Twink gets a cache of money outside off the back of it,
Mhm.
the trunk of his car. It's just so Western, and obviously, the loser leaves town race.
Forever.
The forever is the most classic thing. And
But also Fast and Furious because it's a race. It's not a duel.
it's a race
just
and
cars.
it's not a duel in the middle of town. But that's also the wrestling moment of
What?
the
Uh-oh.
film.
What?
Oh no.
The loser leaves town.
Oh.
Forever.
Ding ding ding. It's the
Or-
wrestling moment of the film from Kim
Ever.
Scene.
So like, okay. This is from the territory days of wrestling, where the
Okay.
loser would literally leave town. So the territories, I mean, like, you know, Texas would have its own wrestling promotion, and someone would come in, a bad guy would come in and beat everyone up, and then they'll have a loser leaves town match to explain why that guy's leaving now and going to the next
Stop
promotion.
on. Yeah.
Next
yeah,
stop.
yeah.
He's going to Oklahoma or Florida or whatever to do the
Makes
next
sense.
the next thing. So they would have a loser leaves town match, just like in 1986 when Abdullah the Butcher
Damn
and
it.
Bruiser Brody
God damn it.
had to go at it. Right? The people loved Bruiser because he was in Texas. He was a heel, but they still loved him. Abdullah came in. He was blowing up all the good guys in town, and then someone had to go at the end of it. So Christmas Star Wars 1986, loser leaves town match.
So now This movie ends with the loser crashing his car upside down, everyone cheering that he might be dead.
Yeah.
That the other racer has won.
His like own like father figure is like, I'm not gonna check. I'm just gonna congratulate you, man of honor. Like,
Yes.
Do either of you think there is any chance we see DK again in a future movie, or is he too small potatoes for where this franchise is going to go? Or Kim,
God,
You know
is
that
he
he runs
Etion?
ATN.
Is he Etion?
There's no other reasonable option. He's got to be the guy. He's got to be the guy. He left town.
he
What
is
happens
Drift
after you
King.
leave town? You change your name. You do something else. When
He had an empire of crime.
Mhm.
So it's
When-
established. He has
when
the structure
Bruiser-
for it.
When Bruiser Brody left, he came back later as Red River Jack, a different guy, different name, different thing going on. Maybe, DK naturally, or Takashi is no longer, he lost his eminent title of
Okay,
Drift.
so he goes back to Takashi.
He's Takashi
Well,
somewhere else.
okay, so the question is like, when you're president, you're no longer president, but people still address you as president, right? Like, are you?
Oh.
It's not. You're not always. Are you always Drift King? Or are you not always Drift King?
I don't think you can always be. I think you hold it like the belt.
Yeah.
Like that's the heavyweight belt.
Yeah.
And like if
He's
you don't have the belt, you are not champion.
So he's like one-time Drift King.
Yes.
Yeah.
Formerly known
Former
as
Drift
DK.
King.
The former Drift King of the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
The 45th Drift King of Tokyo.
There's a list on the garage somewhere that they just like wrote all the names.
The name of the list is called Probable Cause. Like,
Yeah.
here's a list of criminals who race cars for like.
Kim, is one of these things that we've talked about is anything we've mentioned so far your favorite part of this movie? Or is there something else about this movie that is your favorite part?
Oh man, it's the Shibuya crossing. Drift
The
scene.
drift through, in slow
think
motion.
I think that really set things off as far as the culture around this. People saw that, they're like, "Oh my god, it was a moment for this franchise." Despite the movie, of course, is, we don't know. Everyone has different opinions about it, but like that scene is, that is it.
It's iconic. It is iconic.
It's a good looking thing.
Walt, we just heard the wrestling moment of the movie. What is the D&D moment of Tokyo Drift?
It's a really good question. Because
Thank you
this
so
movie
much.
has some evidence. So it's got, like, we're back into kind of the early part of it where clearly the intervention of Vin Diesel, who is, I argue, the architect of the D&D-ness of all this.
Okay.
He's only kind of a brief presence. And so there's a couple things that I think kind of stand out. One of them relates to the Lucas Black performance as Sean. And it is sometimes you try out a new character voice, doesn't really work too well.
Oh.
Sometimes, you're a guy from Arizona who weirdly speaks like he's, from Texas or Alabama, and it just, the character voice doesn't work, and like a later
from
session they'll change it.
Alabama.
I don't care. He's an
Moved
actor.
to Arizona.
Bama boy.
He's
Acting,
Bama
my
boy.
boy. Have you tried it?
How come I never see you drift?
Yeah. Sometimes, you make a
Joey,
character that
we
you think
need
is
that
really
on a
cool.
shirt. I just had the idea. Sorry,
Super Yaki made that shirt. I have that shirt already.
Okay, then never mind. That's
Speaking of which, I
what
have the Super Yaki,
Oh, I have that too.
Honk if you're horny for Han.
Yep.
From the critically acclaimed film Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. It's so good. Super Yaki, big fans. So that's like one thing that you could do. Sometimes it's also like, you fuck up a character build and you don't really see that character ever again after one session. It happens too. For this film, the thing is languages. So sometimes when you play D&D, you're like, okay, I go talk to the elf over there. And then halfway through the conversation, the DM's like, actually, wait, do you speak Elvish? And you're like, no, I actually don't. And so, but you just kind of have to move on. And in this movie, never really grasps who speaks what. And there's always just kind of assumption that eventually, if you talk in English long enough, they'll revert to speaking common, and you can just carry on the scene without subtitles. And I think that is an incredible perspective on this film, which, again, he just kind of doesn't ever really seem to really learn Japanese, despite living in Japan. And just kind of assumes that everyone else will just eventually speak common.
Well, he doesn't go to fucking school. He's always at this.
He clearly doesn't go to school.
He does not go to school at all in this. He's just at the docks, drifting in circles.
So
That's all
that's my biggest D&D thing for this movie. But I did want to with your indulgence,
Sure.
dive in on a little something I've had up my sleeve now that we've
Please.
done the first 5
Oh,
about
please.
my argument that not only is the Fast and Furious franchise Dungeons and Dragons, that it literally is Dungeons and Dragons. So you might know that there are 5 editions basically of D&D,
Okay.
and they've evolved over time. And we've talked about a couple of films. The first 5 movies, I want you to keep in mind as I kind of describe some of the various issues that these editions have had. So like first edition comes out, it's like very bound to basics. It's very combat oriented. You know, it's part of like very rules based, but it's a little open ended. It definitely kind of comes down to a lot of dice and stats and things like that. By the second edition, it starts emphasizing like story a little bit more, new places, new things. You get new locations. You get like Ravenloft in that. You get Miami, perhaps in a different franchise. You know, it almost destroyed the entire company because it ended up separating the fan base all across different things. It was no longer just like the basic mechanics of mazes and dungeons, but actually worlds that you can kind of inhabit. The third edition, which maybe this movie has something to do with,
Okay.
right? It's kind of the first like actual modern version of the game. Like it's recognizable, right? You look back on it, you're like, oh, this really feels like this is in this universe. It feels like I'm in the world again now. Like you start having like skill lists, you start like having the leveling style that you end up having, you start having different classes of people who professionalize. Like it's kind of considered to be very complete. It really lasted for a while on that.
You have
And,
a
like,
director who's directed 5 of the movies in the franchise.
Yeah, you know, maybe it had a lot of influence on everything that came after, eventually perhaps spawning, you know, spin-offs and things like that. Fourth edition kind of hits everyone by surprise because things are starting to change, right? Like the rules get really streamlined, combat starts getting pretty dynamic, right? You're starting to have a little bit more fun when you're fighting, right? In Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition, and also Fast and Furious. It's a little bit of a reboot of a franchise kind of thing. You can have fun modifications for characters, right? The knock on it, right, is that it's too cartoony. That it's a little bit too much in the World of Warcraft kind of vein where it's trying to compete with that. So people start getting a little bit like, okay, we're losing a little bit of the verisimilitude here. We're losing a little bit of the like, I'm in these boxes fighting these kind of things. A little bit, maybe fewer car chases and more sensationalism, right? And then 5th edition, in Brazil perhaps, or just Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, right? It's basically combining a ton of input from the fans, right? It aggregates everything that's worked before, but it makes it so much more for the story people and the character people, where it's no longer just grinding out fights and it's no longer just grinding out combat. It's the complexity is there that you can kind of use it as a world to inhabit, and you start really liking characters within it. Like it's a fast game, it gets pretty quick, and then it's also, I would argue, a pretty good starting place for people. You can kind of skip the first 4 editions and just intro them to 5, and then all of a sudden you have a good time. So that's kind of my argument, that literally Fast and Furious, the evolution of this, the strange evolution of this franchise in the first 5 films, to be clear, which is, it's an extremely weird way to build a franchise because they did it accidentally with fits and starts, is basically exactly what happened with Dungeons and Dragons in it.
Amazing.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That needs to be a very awesome article about how it matches like that.
Yeah.
Because it's incredible. That was
because everything that comes out, you know, they'll talk about like, then it starts getting a little bit more commercialized, if we're being honest. Whatever 6th edition comes out, I don't know, it's gonna be very poetic, you know, but we'll see. But it's just like, you know, these are things that like started as just people trying to make movies and people trying to make games that were fun, and then improving and iterating and, you know, making gigantic mistakes and huge colossal problems for themselves in the process. But like, it's just kind of interesting to see that, like, you know, sometimes life imitates art, which imitates a different kind of art.
Yes.
I have a D&D thing.
Sure.
What is it?
You know, when they're in the he meets Twinkie for the first time, and Twinkie
Yeah.
sits down next to him and tries to sell him stuff, and he goes, "You selling that Sparko steering wheel?" It's when the characters go to a vendor and try to buy something that they absolutely do not. They just think it's cool. The fuck is he going to use that steering wheel for?
He doesn't have a car.
doesn't
He's not
have a
allowed
car.
near cars. He doesn't have a license in Japan.
Yeah, you get to a vendor that has cool shit. Oh yeah, we're buying something.
Love it.
I do like that there's a character named Twink in this. This does
Well,
feel like a
do you know
decision
the
would not
story.
happen.
The origin of Twinkie?
No, I'd really like to hear it. Happy Pride Month, everyone.
Get
It
ready
would-
for racism.
Oh
So,
no! Oh no!
Yes,
Originally-
literally. Yeah.
Originally,
no!
Twinkie was an Asian character who was, pardon, yellow on the outside but white on the inside.
Oh no!
And then they cast Bow Wow. And so instead of changing his name to like an equally racist like Oreo, they just kept it Twinkie.
Oh no!
But yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was implied that he was live. Yeah. Oh no!
You got milkshake ducked right there. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I was gonna say this felt like one of the first movies, like action films, where an Asian villain didn't really feel deliberately racist. But I am actually gonna no longer make that argument anymore.
Justin Lin made this movie.
Yeah.
That's
I
the
know.
whole point. Like
I
he's
know.
there. Like
Oh no! Well, nobody's nerfed. Anyway.
I will say one thing this movie does well, maybe accidentally, is we talk a lot about how a lot of these movies have pop culture references that instantly dated, that instantly feel, it's just like, why are you referencing Game of Thrones 3 times?
yes,
That show has an end date. It has an expiration date. It's ending when this movie comes out. Nobody's going to talk about it anymore. This movie saying, I don't care if you're sick or in bed with Beyonce.
timeless, right?
Still
Yeah.
a good thing to say 18 years later. Good job,
I
Patrick
set
Pierce.
my watch at that exact moment. It was great. Yeah, just holds up.
Just like, yes. Beyonce's still beautiful.
Yeah.
18 years later.
And still popular. It's like they nailed it.
Yep.
It's like Cher.
Speaking
I don't care
of
if you're in bed
beauty,
with Cher.
do you guys know Chrissy Teigen's in this movie?
No.
I saw the
Really?
tweet.
Yeah.
She
She is.
tweeted...
Her face is not in it.
No, her face is not in it. Her boobs are in this. She tweeted like several years ago, I just remembered that I spent a day shooting in a warehouse in LA, and I think I'm in Tokyo Drift somewhere. I was wearing a black dress and a pink bra. And like within like 3 minutes, a dude replied with screenshots.
This?
And, and she's just like, I appreciate the help, but it's also a little concerning how quickly you found this. At the end,
Oh my.
at the end of the movie, in the final warehouse party, they cut to a beautiful girl getting out of a car. Other side of the
neck
car,
down. Just neck
a
down.
girl sort of like gets out, and you don't see her face. We see her neck down and like deep, deep cleavage. That's Chrissy Teigen.
Good God. Internet.
Internet.
Take a shower, please.
Calm down, internet.
Go to church.
But the more important thing in that scene, though, is we get the Vin Diesel cameo. What do you guys think of this? I mean, we know that he's here so that he can get the rights to the Riddick franchise. Universal does a swap for it. So you come back to this franchise, we will give you Riddick. But knowing that it's coming, does it still hit you with a little bit of excitement, a little bit of surprise? Do you think, was this right? Was this a good move? Was this exciting? Like, what do you guys think of this return of Mr. Dominic Toretto?
I
think
so
it's amazing.
curious what theaters were like at that moment. Like when they hit the song and you see the back of the car and you're like, that's definitely Vin Diesel. Like, was there a reaction in theaters at like on Thursday previews? Okay, I'm not telling people who saw it later, but Thursday previews. Was there like a, yeah, it's Vin, he's back, baby?
I know that when Jason Statham showed up as Deckard Shaw in the closing credits of 6, I stood up in the theater and cheered. So I'm sure if I was watching these movies back in 2006, I would have stood up and cheered when Vin Diesel popped up in here.
I don't think that like Screen Rant or like Collider existed for like stay for the post movie screen. Like the fact that this actually doesn't even take place as like a mid or post credit scene, it's just like right before it, shows like how in the primordial goo of the era we were. Like we hadn't yet like even like this was like kind of like a proto. Like it's like a tetrapod like coming up on a beach of like, hey, we have an idea. Let's put a weird little stinger where we call back to a character that Kevin Feige has then, beaten into dust for the past like decade.
Yes.
But I will remind you, the first movie has a post-credit scene.
Fair,
Dom
yeah.
doing voiceover in Mexico. And then just 2 movies later, we'll have the mid-credit scene where Letty is back as a ghost, right? So like, or she, whatever, with amnesia, some kind of other Letty. But yeah, this is a weird, it's a setup for the next movie. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, if you get no Vin cameo at the end of this movie, the franchise dies. I would make that argument. Without
100%.
Vin showing up at the end to sell them that, like, he might... If there's another one, we're bringing him back into it. I think that you lose the fan base. This is the end of the franchise, and it's just 3 movies that are just kind of loosely connected.
Did you enjoy it more or less than Darth Vader showing up at the end of Rogue One?
More? The Darth Vader thing is like, yeah, we know this is a prequel to A New Hope. We don't need to see him going like, whop, 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 but it's still cool. Like, it's badass to see him, like, powerful, but...
I'm glad that Kim brought this up because you guys asked earlier, like, do you like this ordering, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it reminds me, are you familiar with, like, machete order?
No.
Cool.
What is it?
Oh, man, this is great. You're
Like,
going
is this
to-
Robert Rodriguez's machete, or is this a different machete?
No, different thing entirely. So the idea is,
Okay.
like, so if you had watched Star Wars like everyone else basically did, of our generation perhaps, you watched the first films in the first original trilogy, and then a few years later, maybe when we were like young, they came out with the prequels, and then you watched those after you watched the first three.
Yes.
Yep.
And you might notice that George Lucas has made a decision to number them 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, and stands by the idea that you should watch them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so the idea being that he's willing to sacrifice the incredible twist in Empire Strikes Back that that Darth Vader is the father of Luke, in exchange for a twist that he then adds in of, oh, Palpatine's the Emperor, right? And so that's the trade, and it doesn't work. And so the machete order is like, how would you show Star Wars to a kid now? And the machete order argues the way that you should do it is you should show them Star Wars, A New Hope, and then you should show Empire Strikes Back. And you have that incredible reveal of Darth Vader as Luke's father. And then you go back and do Phantom Menace, Clone Wars, Revenge of the Sith. So that you can kind of like back in time go like, how the hell did that happen? And then and only then do you watch Return of the Jedi, which brings to a full close the franchise. So you basically build in a flashback sequence into the trilogy so that you maintain both of the twists while at the same time honoring the wishes of George Lucas as well as the original presentation to maintain the best viewing experience. And this way of viewing things feels like it does the same thing, because you do kind of feel like, Han's got a sword dangling over his head every time that, like, even every movie ends with like, guess we'll go to Tokyo, but maybe not now. And so as a result, this is a way of kind of subverting that in a way and kind of taking away some of the, like, the franchise-itis of it, while also maintaining the integrity of the films as a whole,
Because we've had guests on here who have not only not seen these movies, but also like knew nothing about the movies. And
Interesting.
It's never been as pure as they really know nothing, and they all kind of like they've seen, like, because once you start watching the movies, like, you just sort of see the stuff everywhere, and like there's trailers or whatever. But we've also been like, okay, so watch 6, but don't watch the credits. So like even that you don't know, like you know that Han dies, you know what I mean? But it's that kind of thing, but it's like you don't know what's coming until Deckard, blah blah blah, whatever. And so, or no, you don't know that Han dies. You know that Han goes away, and then you see Han die here, and then you watch the credits. You'd be like, oh my god! Then it sets up 7. Like there is our own kind of machete order.
But either way, I did appreciate it because I think that it preserves a lot of the tensions that the filmmakers would have wanted to be in it had they had the foresight to not kill off this beloved character,
I think so too. Yep.
I kind of wish that there was more like that. You know what I mean? Like it feels like, but the only thing that this franchise keeps doing is Han. It's just like, no, this isn't really how Han's not actually dead. Han actually was yoinked out by Mr. Nobody. It's like, what? Why? What?
Don't explain it. Doesn't matter.
It's also like, it's very comic booky in that way, which I know that we had talked a little bit at the very beginning of, like, obviously we come into with the conceit of like D&D and wrestling, but like this very much does draw from comic books too, which kind of have that same like tabletop role playing, wrestling, and comics all have the idea of like these stories have been running for 50 years. Or as long as you want them to run, and you can dive in whenever you want, and you can leave whenever you want, but they have to kind of feel resonant and relevant whenever you're in the midst of it, and you have to have recurring rises and falls with it. And like these movies definitely come from that palette, but it also has that comic book thing where it's like, sometimes a character just gets a bad beat, and like for whatever reason, Kitty Pryde, she's in every goddamn time travel story just because they decided to make her powers vaguely transcend that. And so, Han is just a charmer, right? He's a face. He's a charisma build, right? But for whatever reason, he's just now a fucking biological mutant for some reason. That like it just kind of feels very X-Men-y in a way of like, man, like this character really took some interesting changes,
He is a time traveler.
Yeah.
In a very weird way.
Yeah.
Joe, you have any other notes? Anything else about this movie that you noticed this time around?
Yes, I did. I have one last one that really freaked me out. When they're sitting there and they're on their little date in the cute little vending machine shop, they're drinking Rockstar,
Wow.
which is like, I mean, I get that they're maybe children, right? But they wouldn't be drinking Coronas. But we had NOS energy drink that comes back in 4. Right? I think NOS is like firmly featured in 4, but they went with Rockstar this time. And it also feels like that would kind of be a Red Bull situation as well. So I don't know how
There's
Rockstar got product placement in this one.
I'm trying to remember, and I can't find anything in my email, but I remember, so like there is MC Hammer stuff all over this movie, because MC Hammer like helped finance the movie. Like they needed money, and Justin Lin was friends with him, and he's just like, here's some money.
It was Justin Lin. Like Justin Lin like pitched him the movie or something, and MC Hammer was like, yo, let's do that. And then like that's why there's MC Hammer billboards everywhere in this movie.
In my head, there's something like that for Rockstar, but I don't remember what it is, and I can't find it. So it might not be true, but like it might just be something like that, right? Where it's just like, well,
yeah, it's just like they gave us some money. Yeah.
There's a whole car like wrapped in Rockstar in this movie. Like,
there's a car wrapped in Rockstar.
Yeah.
Okay, so they definitely paid for this.
They definitely, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. But they like skip NOS. Like NOS is right there. Like that's, and in 4 they get NOS.
Joe, you gotta remember, this franchise is not good at things.
This is so true. Sorry. They miss the most obvious layups to us every time. It's like, it's right there. How does The Rock not drop a Candy Asses in this entire franchise?
Candy Ass is a wholly owned trademark of the World Wrestling Entertainment.
Well, now he has his trademarks.
Didn't I read that in numlock.news at numlock.com?
Yeah, hey, we got a lot of good stuff on numlock.com. Yeah, he bought them all back. So maybe now, but I mean, listen, do you think that he's gonna let Vin get a single finger on the concept of Candy Asses?
Man, can you imagine?
I'm trademark searching right now. Give me one moment.
In a new movie that they're watching, like the USFL or something, like they're just like, what's an alternative that's not the XFL? Like,
hey,
what
can you pass the Terramana?
Oh, there's a lot of. There's 6 Candy Ass trademarks. I don't think any of them are The Rock's, so feel free, get in on that. You can't have a Candy Ass barbecue sauce, hot sauce, or salsa because that's owned by Jeffrey Jacobs in Arizona, and perfume also from a California perfume company.
I wanted to. Is Candy Ass just love spell? Right, it has to be. It has to just be Bath and Body Works love spell, right? Like that's all I can imagine it is.
I'm sure I've said it on here before, but like my handle on basically the entire internet is Soul Pop from the TV show Dead Like Me, and there is now a Houston-based popcorn company called Soul Popped Popcorn, and I'm just like, you didn't think to like look for that name? Like you can't have it on any platform. Like
yeah, I have all of them.
Like I didn't trademark it, but it's just like I own on every platform. So now they're like Soul Popcorn. Whatever. I don't know. Walt, do you have any notes? Any other thoughts about this movie?
I have one. I thought it was really funny where like there's like it's one of the romantic scenes in it where there's like a monologue being like, I remember back when I was, just learning how to drift, we would come up this mountain and drift all the way down it, and like there's a cute little like guitar playing in the background, but like in like an inoffensive way like you'd hear on The Bachelor, that is like, It's not an actual song, it's just some notes being played to get some ambiance. And it's just like they're like, nobody bothered with us at all. And like then you just like hear the whole scene. Like clearly the sound guy had some fun with it, of just the most annoying screeching in the world as they drift back and forth. And it's just like she's like it's just like a moment of serenity with her. It's just like, I remember screech when we were coming screech, and you just like listen to it. It's just like she was like, and nobody ever bothered us. I was like, yeah, I mean like the neighbors must be kind of mad. Like
Everybody heard you. You scared every animal. Every animal on the mountain ran.
But this movie also posits that every neighbor is just a nice old lady eating noodles, watching game shows, right? Like they don't care. Just drift outside.
Is Noodle Grandma the best character in this whole franchise? Because she's like one of our favorites. I love Noodle Grandma.
I have to say, I think that the Fast and Furious franchise needs to bring back Noodle Grandma.
What?
She's dead.
Kim?
She's so dead.
Yeah?
What if she comes?
Etion?
No, he would never. We would
She
never.
could never.
Oh, of course not.
And the only other note that I had is that like when they call him Gaijin a lot, it was just like, and they have to explain, oh no, that's a derogatory name for a foreigner. It's just like clearly in 2006, America had not watched enough anime to know exactly what that means. We're like now, like I think that's actually a pretty common understood word among at least among weebs. And like in 2006, there just simply wasn't enough. We had not had enough years of Toonami playing for people to understand what gaijin mean, and they had to explain it on multiple occasions.
Look, this might have been a gateway drug into weebdom for a lot of people. Like, ooh, Tokyo does seem pretty cool.
I think that's kind of true. I think
turning car boys into anime boys.
Hey, that's actually the plot of a couple anime. That's an isekai, right? Turning car boys into that's literally you're just describing Akira, right?
Initial D. Yeah.
And then there's also Tetsuo in Akira, and then there's Tetsuo the Iron Man from like 1989, which is also where he's kind of a car himself. Like there's a lot of crossover here already.
Transformers, right? Just guy looking things turn it. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is a gateway drug to a lot of stuff.
There's news that there is a Transformer. We'll talk about this next week too, Joe. There's a Transformers G.I. Joe crossover movie happening. Like, why can't we get Universal to do anything with Fast and Furious crossover? Like, if you're willing to play ball Transformers and G.I. Joe, like, get this with anything.
You have a preference? What would you like?
Jurassic Park
with
Jurassic Park. Transformers is great, but it makes too much sense. It's like it's too on the nose. Like, give me dinos and Dom Toretto.
I was joking before we saw F9 that like it was going to open in Jurassic Days, and then when we saw F9
did you guys see it in theaters?
There was a 6-minute IMAX preview for the new Jurassic World, so it opens with dinosaurs, and I'm just like, Joe, I cannot believe I got this right.
We're sitting right next to each other.
And then I'm like, oh, it's just a preview for another movie. But I was like, can you imagine if I'm just like, yeah, it's going to be dinosaurs. And then like they do dinosaurs.
So I'm just going to go through some of the films that Universal's got on the hopper and think about ways that we can combine these with Fast and Furious. The most obvious one to me, coming right up, Twisters, right? I mean, Twisters is about trucks, right? We do have to acknowledge that that's a truck-based franchise.
Okay.
But like, what if they need someone who can outrun a tornado to get
Dom Toretto?
Dorothy
It's Dom Toretto.
Ford
I mean, you probably need
close.
at least two. You need two precision
drivers.
Also, if this franchise weren't on like running on fumes right now, Glenn Powell would be in this franchise in the next movie or two.
Oh yeah, he'd be great. He's amazing. I love that. I love that man. Other films that Universal has coming, Wicked. I think that speaks for itself. I think that
Fast and Furious the musical is always on my.
I think Vin would be up for it. I think he would absolutely be up for it. Alien, they have the Alien Romulus film. So like I think like they've gone to space once. What if something came back with them?
Oh no.
And then Gladiator 2. I also do think that would be really fun.
Is that they get time traveled back?
They have the chariot race in order to, steal
But how do they get? Are they in ancient Rome or doing gladiator things in modern day?
Joe, the bomb that detonated in Rome in Fast 10 was actually a time
ripped a
compression
hole in the
bomb.
space time continuum.
And there's only one team with 2 precision drivers
who could also fight gladiator battles.
Yep.
Okay.
We need this.
And wait, when we go back, is like the Emperor? Is he like the greatest grandfather relative of The Rock, just played by The Rock?
Yeah, I think 100%. I also think it's because The Rock has already played Sword and Sandal a couple times. He's great in Hercules, right? And I think that he's got the mojo for it. Scorpion King, 100%. He's done Hellenic. Now it's his time to do Hellenistic, And I do think that literally just doing a Ben-Hur, I'd love to. Actually, shit, we just described Hannibal. Vin Diesel has been trying to make this movie for years. He's trying to make the Hannibal biopic, the Hannibal Barca, the fellow who invaded Rome from Carthage. That's been his entire long-term thing of like he was originally going to play Hannibal and now he's going to play Hamilcar. It's probably not going to happen, but like he's been trying to make a Hannibal biopic for like decades now.
That makes sense. I was really hoping you were talking about Silence of the Lambs.
No, that's what the Hannibal was named after.
I don't think that he's got the gravitas.
I do appreciate that you named like one of the greatest generals in history, that fella from Carthage, thousands of years later.
That fella from Carthage. I mean, I would watch any of those crossover movies.
Yeah,
I do want Fast and Furious the musical, though. I think that's ultimately what we need.
Coming
to do.
from Joe, who hates musicals,
this would be incredible.
Saying a lot.
But Vin has to sing, and they can't ADR over him. He has to, like, it can only be his voice. They can't use a stand-in.
Yeah, and
I
like
think-
Russell Crowe in Les Mis.
We need the Tonys are this when we record this. The Tonys are this weekend. When this comes out, I believe the Tonys were last weekend. Congratulations to Merrily, Stereophonic, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot. The Back to the Future has a Broadway show. They're doing
Exactly.
all right. Like they're trying to mine this stuff. I think that's a car-based musical, right? And I think that
It
like
is.
we could pull this off, fella. I don't know. Like I think that
If
Do
there
we
was a
wanna
Fast and
write-
Furious musical,
We could pull
would
this
you
off.
just adapt the first movie, or would you adapt the entire franchise?
It's at least
First-
the first couple
first
because you
movie.
need the songs from Tokyo Drift.
Here's the
though. I
thing.
want a chorus of "Wonder How They Go Down It," like it on the side.
Have y'all realized this? I didn't until this time. I heard She Wants to Move by NERD in this film, and I forgot that it was in there. NERD that was Pharrell's band back then.
Yep.
Teriyaki Boys had Nigo in it. Nigo and Pharrell run design for two Louis Vuitton fashion houses. LVMH.
Was it you who was telling us this?
Pharrell's
Like a
at
couple.
Louis Vuitton, and Nigo is at Kenzo. It's the largest luxury conglomerate in the world, and the music.
Two of them.
Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift.
Drifts.
From that.
guys. This works. So here's the thing. You listen to me. All right. Act 1 is basically the first chunk of it is basically just adapting the Fast and the Furious film. And then you have a musical montage, right? Of the other, you have then 2 where they're separate, and then 4, which are all kind of skippable, but it's a big get the band together thing. And then the movie, Act 1 ends with 5. And so the big final number before you send everybody out to concessions is Danza Kuduro, right? They come back, they've just got their wine, they're all they just got their Coronas because that's all that we sell at concessions at the Fast and the Furious musical.
Okay.
So
No
they're
water,
all
just
getting
Coronas.
ready, they're all hanging out, and then you immediately pop over to 6. You kind of get some of that plot done. You introduce the big bads. You kind of reaffirm all this kind of stuff. You get Hobbs back. You get everybody back. And then you do 3, because that's a good number to get everybody picked up and going again. The Tokyo Drift music is amazing. And then the big ballad, that kind of
See You Again.
See You Again. And that's the big heart-stirring song in that act. And then you kind of close it out with a successful conclusion to it, but that's how you do it. That you have your act breaks
It's
already done in this
brilliant.
fucking franchise.
And you do machete style.
You do machete style, absolutely. You have to, because how would you kill Han in the first act and then bring him back in the third? That would be stupid.
Writing. Why are you still talking to us?
Okay, great. Hey, this is great. I'm Walt Hickey. Read Numlock News.
If
Check out
we
Sherwood.com.
mail
I
this
gotta go-
entire podcast to ourselves, does this count as copyright?
I think we can do this. I think we can grind this one out over the weekend and beat everyone, and then get this in Donna Langley's lap on Monday, folks. We just got to write this one.
It's beautiful. Kim, other thoughts, other notes, anything else to say about Tokyo Drift?
One last thing. I think this film has the most Fast and Furious party sequence in the whole franchise.
Really?
And I don't think it's very close. It is when Han takes Sean to the hideout for the first time, and they go in, they dap up the bouncer, they go inside. There's a cool little dance club in there, and then they go to the back door, and there's a hallway there, and there's the 2 women making out in the hallway, and they go into a second club, and it's that hip hop club, and it's all models and everything, and Bow Wow's there, and then there's another door that's finally into the garage.
Han's house.
With
Han's
the
house, yeah.
sweet rides. Yeah. That is it, they just hit you with it 7 times in a row, and this is the vibe. This is the Fast and Furious vibe right up here in your face. It's not one long shot, but it is shot like it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just brilliant.
We choreograph it like Starlight Express.
All on roller skates.
All on roller skates. Just like the train musical from Andrew Lloyd Webber. It's been running in Germany and Stuttgart for years. It's a roller. God damn it. This is actually pretty good.
It's really good.
It's really good. It's really, really good. But I do think that killing Han and then immediately bringing him back adds some of the Fast and the Furiousness to it.
Yeah.
So I like the 3 as the interlude, but I also don't mind killing Han multiple times throughout the musical. Like, if you just kept killing him
Every
and revive
act break
it.
is just killing Han.
Yes, is Han dies and then he's back immediately.
It's just like a real sad. They do it like full Angels in America style, where the whole crowd's weeping. He's immediately right back in the next scene.
Yes. Yeah. Refill your Corona, take a pee, and Han's coming back.
Oh, God.
My last question, is there any official jurisdiction for cops to just crush a car they impound from a race?
I don't believe so. You might have to like declare it garbage.
Totaled?
Well, yeah,
that can't be right. Those
not
words don't
cops.
sound legal.
What if it's
I don't think it's legal though. Yeah, I always say this, and we've talked about it before, but like that cop is so excited to like fuck the little guy. You know what I mean? Like he's like, look at those rich kids. I'm not gonna be able to do anything to them, but you're poor, so I'm gonna take you through the ringer.
Yeah,
and it's like, what is that?
It's called realism in film. I don't know what you're talking about.
But he's a white kid. Like, come on. He's going to let him go.
Hey, man, this is a class war. We got to talk about this part of it, right? Like,
okay, fair enough.
All right, before we play This Ain't No 10-Second Race, I have one question for you, Walt, from a listener who, in your book,
yes,
We Are What We Watch, on page 65, you have a figure wherein you note that the crew size for the Fast Five heist is 12. And he's wondering how you got to 12, because we have Dom Bryan, Mia Roman, Tej Han, Giselle, Leon Santos, maybe Vince, but Vince is also dead. But then beyond that, who knows? How do you get to 12?
I believe I count Vince, and I believe I count
Hobbs and Elena.
Oh, yeah, I think that they count because they help in the end because they swap teams basically. Because the heist itself is we're gonna go raid the police. Right, and so they are on the heist team for that. They are dealt in, here's what we're going to steal, here's what we're going to do. So I do count those as being Confederates within it, yes.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, that's what's up. Again, great point. And you can make an argument that they don't have to split the money with the cops, but I would feel neglected if I did not include co-conspirators,
Asked and answered. Thank you so very much. Did you tease that is there going to be like an update to that or no? Or did I make that up?
I think you made that. I think I was talking about that they had recently sold the audiobook rights, and so I think that there might be that coming out. I don't know when. Cool. I don't know how. I think I have to send in a sample at some point. I believe I'm allowed to talk about it. If not, it's all good. But I do believe there will be potentially an MP3 file of it coming out soon. So either way,
exciting.
It's a good looking book. People should buy the physical hardcover copy.
It's beautiful. It absolutely is beautiful.
Great for dads and grads.
Ooh,
I know a lot of our listeners actually have bought the book.
Hell yeah. I appreciate that. It's very, very kind of y'all to do. Thank you.
So we have one more thing to do. This ain't no 10-second race, aka boy do we have a podcast for you.
Boy do we have a podcast for you. Come and check out our show. Yeah.
This is where we go on X.com, the everything app. And we find a tweet from anybody talking about these movies, this franchise, these actors, respond to them, get shut out. I found last time, this is a stupid screen name, at Crazy Kurt Philly, who says, my future Fast and Furious predictions. Ava Mendes shows up in Fast 11. Luke Evans shows up in Fast 11. Vanessa Kirby shows up in Fast 11. And I said, you won't let us reply, but you're still #family. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. It got 3 likes. Likes are not private, even though you can still type /likes in the bar and still see the likes. But likes
likes are private, but he just removed the link, but they still exist and you can still find them. Uh-huh. Oh, okay, cool. I figured he fixed it, but I didn't know how well he fixed it. He fixed it real good. He has a long history of doing good fixins, so thanks for reminding me this one was also fixed. Cool. Glad I haven't been liking booty shots randomly anymore.
But the likes are from Randy, Michelle, and Aaron, so no points there, unfortunately. Joe, you found Chris at Just Chris Salvin, who was quote tweeting about The Fall Guy and said, this movie looks like it was marketed toward Fast and Furious fans circa 2015. We said, Chris, we feel personally attacked. And maybe we do have a podcast for you or our other one about Ryan Gosling. Joe, I got 2 likes from Randy and Aaron, so no points there, unfortunately. Damn. Now, Walt, you found 2 because you found one that I found, and then you played that one for charity.
Yeah.
Or one of those. But the first one you played was from Building a Miss Tory at Mighty Minx. The most iconic prayer of all time isn't the Lord's Prayer. It's Roman's Prayer at the end of Fast and Furious 6. We said amen to that. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. We got 1 like, but the like is hidden. Can't see it. No points. For charity, though, you played for Tim Ellis at Tim Ellis AU. What was your greatest experience in movie theater? Fast and Furious 6 post-credit scene when Jason Statham hops out of a car that kills Han. We said, yeah, that was pretty good. The only kind of thing you can get at the movies.
Yeah.
Boy, do we have a podcast for you. It got 2 likes, both hidden. Can't see them. Kim, you have to salvage us. You found Val at Vitalist LST. Do you ever sit here and think about how random fictional characters? Because I do. The fact that I have the same birthday as Dom Toretto. Or the fact that the Fast and Furious is an amazing franchise, but one of the best lovers to enemies to lovers trope. Because Dom and Letty, and we said we do too. Alexander with a K. They changed their name, so who knows? Because Dom and Letty, boy, do we have a podcast for you. Got 1 like from Aaron. No points. So tough. But now, I have tweets from all of you, so Walt, you sent me yours first. Please
I did.
hit us with yours.
I have a new strategy. This mentions it's this is not necessarily about the movie. There are 3 photographs attached to this that show carnage on the side of a street, and it says, I just watched a guy Tokyo drift around the corner, demolish a light pole, say he was fine, and then drive off. He did not get far because his car was leaking a ton of fluid.
Beautiful.
And I would like to reply to this man being, hey man, I hope that everything's cool. Also, we like that movie as well.
Okay.
And I'd like to see if that works, because I want to think outside the box this time. I will say that this is the first time that I want to present, maybe the untoward behavior of ex-users, the Everything app. But I felt like the mentions of Tokyo Drift on the app X are a little bit spicier at times than any other Fast and Furious mentions.
They are.
Well,
they are.
There was a right-wing initiative several years ago called Fast and Furious. Where if you Google and you search for Fast and Furious, it was all like alt-right stuff. And we're just like, oh no. But that went away.
Like lizard peoples and things like that.
It seems like it is like referring to, car crimes against normies. But nevertheless, this one seemed kind of fine. So I'm going with this. Never want to judge somebody by the emojis in their avatar, but with this one, seems like this is not an alt-right individual. So yes.
I also went to Marcus's account, and the most recent tweet is, I have never seen the movie Cars, and I don't plan on ever changing that. And I really want to just reply to say,
I like Marcus. I think Marcus is cool.
He's a voiceover artist. We'll see. Who knows?
Yeah, why not?
Kim, please hit us the yours from BL Star 969.
Oh yeah, they just tweeted, Tokyo Drift was just peak, with a 17-second edit of Tokyo Drift being absolutely peak. Look at that. Oh,
so peak. It's so peak.
So peak.
I can't wait to watch it.
So I would like to respond to this person with it is, and so are you.
Oh, very. So you're pandering.
Pandering.
We're going
pandering is a good move.
I was just seeing if they were okay. All right, and you're just like
full pander. We're at the pander.
We need points.
At this point.
I get you.
All right, Joe, hit us with yours, which is okay.
I'm going with G. That's sus at KS Matrix Slides.
I saw
the tweet is.
Oh
the tweet is just, I like Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. And I think we go real clean, and we just go same. And no, boy, do we have a podcast for you, just link to the podcast.
Yep, I agree. I think that's great. I respect that.
It was so direct, I couldn't pass that one up. It's just right there. Also, it has kind of traction for being 8 hours ago, 22 likes, 4 replies. I'm trying to get on that hype train.
Yeah. No, I've also been looking for tweets with a little bit of momentum behind them, which
it doesn't work. I've tried it. It does not work.
Mine has no momentum whatsoever because mine's from last September. Got no engagement back then. This is the first time though in 3 episodes that Walt and I did not pick the same tweet. So I was just glad that when he sent me his, it was not the same one.
Okay.
But I found from Austin at Fucktin. I searched for Sean Boswell.
Fucktin or Fuckton?
Fucktin.
Tin.
Tin.
Okay, sorry.
I searched Sean Boswell on X, and I read every single tweet because there's only 20 of them. One of them was from fan favorite Garrett Smith, 1 or 2 from us.
Okay.
Austin was the only one that I thought was anywhere even remotely engaging. Does Sean Boswell ever get to see the blonde from the beginning of the movie? If Bro did all that, got sent to Tokyo, and never got to hit, I feel bad for Big Dog. But also, Neil is a huge upgrade. Baby girl right there for real.
I like this. What was his name?
Austin, or you might know him as Fuckton.
Fuckton.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Fuckton got a point. He got a point. She's kind of sitting with the other. She's sitting with Zachary Ty Bryan at the end. She didn't even fulfill her promises.
I'm just saying, for real, boy, we have a podcast for you.
For real. That's nice. Perfect.
Look, we're all trying new things today.
We're experimenting a little bit.
Yeah.
None of them's
going
gonna
to
work.
Hey, innovation never stops.
I'm glad we all took a different. It was it was firmly a different wave.
Hey,
I don't know what happened.
I
but
would
we were all
love it if,
gotta mix it up today.
If next week next time we talk is if the score is 0, 0, 4, 873.
We picked up 10,000 weekly listeners. Because Fuckton was just like, boys, we must mobilize.
Yeah.
Well, we will be back in 2 weeks with you guys to talk about Furious 7. But before then, Kim, what would you like to plug? Is there anything new you have published, printed, reported upon, shared to the world that you want people to find online?
We had Carmelo Anthony in the office the other day to talk about the NBA's Secret Wine Society. So
Secret what?
What?
Yeah, they like wine now. And
I know
Melo,
LeBron was big into wine, right?
Yeah,
that was his
Melo
thing. Yeah.
said back in the when he was like a rookie and then his first few years in the league, I guess he was too young, but when he was 21-ish, that's when he started drinking wine, around his teammates and everything, and they all made fun of him. And over time, he converted a bunch of his bros to drinking wine. And now these days, there's a big Steph Curry likes wine, Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant. These are all wine geeks.
Are they trading bottles and shit? What's happening in this secret wine society? Are they just recommendations or what?
They just hang out
And just drink wine.
They love wine.
Expensive bottles, I'm sure, right? Fucking
I
baller shit.
one could only assume.
At a certain point, when you have NBA money, what else?
That's
do you
what I'm
buy?
saying, right? Yeah.
Melo's new wine label, by the way, costs $2.75 a bottle.
Oh, he bottles his own wine.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think personally, but he does have his own.
It would be really cool if he did. I would pay if he bottled his own wine personally. I would buy one bottle.
If he did the Coppola, oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, we're in.
Oh, I want Carmelo Anthony's Megalopolis.
We all do.
It's set in Syracuse.
That's on Bloomberg.com and Bloomberg TV. If you want to go check out Melo and his wine.
That's very fucking cool.
What would you like to plug?
Sherwood.news, still trucking along. We recently had a successful story about Teslas that we took satellite photos of that are sequestered in parking lots all over the country.
That was you?
Yeah,
that
it was
did
us.
this
Yeah, we got
first?
that. Yeah, we got that. Sherwood News.
Okay, I saw it show up in my...
Ronnie
Insane.
Mola, phenomenal
guys
reporter,
freaking-
Sky-Fi, dope stuff. So check us out. We've got we're cooking right now. We've been launched for about 2 months now, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm the executive editor there, and check out Numlock, numlock.com. That's my newsletter. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't had the book yet, check it out. But if you have, thanks for buying it.
You guys do insane shit all the time. It's so awesome. I just I look forward to that in train facts every time I talk to you.
We will
guys.
have more and more every time. It's great.
I've
Insane.
seen 3 Cybertrucks in the last week and a half, and I'd seen 0 before then. So I don't know what's going on, but they're out there, sort of.
They're in the
Kinda.
mix. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe, our next episode is Life in the Fast Lane, another deleted scene, and then after that, we've got, or actually before that, the main feed will get the Festivus special this weekend. Then we'll get the Life in the Fast Lane. Happy Festivus. On this day, this weekend, 23 years ago, the first movie came out. So we celebrate Festivus on June 22nd.
Congrats.
To honor, to commemorate that release. Maybe in 2 years, the final movie will also come out on the date. Who knows? Who knows? And then after that, we've got Furious 7. The boys are back in town to talk about Furious 7, and we will see them again then. But for all things Too Fast, Too Forever, go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFast2Forever, or at TooFast2Forever on all the socials. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page at TooFast2Forever.com, and come back next week for Life in the Fast Lane. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too.
And that was Kim Bhasin and Walt Hickey, proud owners of a train somewhere. And we will tell you all about it.
when we see you again.